This airline was built to take over America. But how? In 1999, America's skies were crowded. The major airlines had a monopoly and passengers were fed up. But one man saw an opportunity. His name was David Neeleman, and he wanted to create an airline that would put the customer first. He wanted an airline that was more than just a way to get from point A to point B. He wanted to create an experience. On April 2000, JetBlue Airways flew its first flight from New York to Buffalo. It was a small start, but the airline quickly grew. By 2005, it was one of the fastest growing airlines in America. The airline had a modern fleet, friendly crews, and a shiny image. Travelers loved it, but the success didn't last. In 2007, the airline industry was hit with a major crisis. Fuel prices spiked, the economy tanked, and people stopped flying. The question was, could JetBlue survive? The answer, unfortunately, is not without its challenges. To find out how JetBlue almost crashed and how they made a comeback, stay tuned. This is the incredible story of how JetBlue went from winning America's heart to flirting with bankruptcy. By 2007, the airline industry was hit by a massive storm. High fuel prices, fierce competition, and the economic crisis had grounded many airlines, including JetBlue. But JetBlue had a secret weapon: their amazing customer service. It made headlines when a snowstorm at JFK Airport left thousands of passengers stranded. JetBlue responded by putting passengers on a wait list for refunds and free hotels. It was a masterstroke. While other airlines struggled, JetBlue became the darling of the skies. But behind the scenes, the company was bleeding money. The comfortable seats and low fares had attracted millions of passengers, but it was burning through its cash reserves. To make matters worse, the rising cost of fuel was eating into their profits. And then the unthinkable happened. JetBlue's founder and CEO, David Neeleman, was ousted. With the company on the brink of collapse, he had only one option: to raise fares or risk bankruptcy. It was a tough decision, but in the end, he chose to fight for his company. He believed that JetBlue could still turn things around and make a comeback. And against all odds, he did. What do you think? Will JetBlue soar to new heights or crash and burn? This airline promised America a new way to fly, but behind the scenes, there was a war. This is the shocking truth about JetBlue. When David Neeleman, the founder, was pushed out in 2007, it shocked the aviation world. He was the visionary, the man who promised Americans a new way to fly. Yet his own board replaced him. Officially, it was about stability. Unofficially, it was about control. JetBlue's rapid growth had turned into dangerous risk, and investors wanted a steady hand, not a dreamer. The new leadership tried to change strategy. They pulled back expansion, raised some fares, and cut extras. Slowly, JetBlue began to look more like the very airlines it once promised to beat. The shocking truth was clear. Survival was forcing JetBlue to abandon its own identity. And that's when things get really interesting. Did JetBlue have what it takes to turn things around, or would it fade into oblivion? Find out next time. The story of JetBlue, America's most lovable airline, did not end with struggle. It entered a new battlefield. The 2010s brought recovery, but also new enemies. Low-cost carriers like Spirit and Frontier were rising fast, undercutting JetBlue's fares. Meanwhile, giants like Delta, American, and United strengthened their networks, making life harder for smaller players. JetBlue found itself in the middle, fighting from both sides. To survive, it tried bold moves. It ordered new Airbus A321 jets, including the long-range A321LR2 launch flights to London. The dream was big, crossing the Atlantic to challenge the giants, but could a small US airline really do it? At the same time, JetBlue tried to expand at home. It announced plans to merge with Spirit Airlines. The deal promised to create the fifth largest US airline, but regulators in Washington, D.C. argued the merger would kill competition and raise fares. In 2023, a federal judge blocked the deal. As JetBlue's future hung in the balance, one thing was clear: the airline that once seemed unstoppable was once again fighting for its future.